Hi, Year 3, Mrs. Badler here. I'm going to put on 2 English videos this week, one telling you about the beginning of the week and the theme for the whole week. Okay, so this is video 1 and I'm going to be telling you mainly about the beginning of the week. Okay, so this week's theme is going to be Harry Potter, and most of the lessons are based on Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So all the information is in the work pack, and there are texts to read, and also there are some YouTube links so that you can look at some clips from Harry Potter. If you want, you could also do a little bit of extra work. You've got the Harry Potter book, you could read that. Or you could watch the film if you've got the DVD or access to watching films. Or you can listen to free the Harry Potter book number 1, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, on HP Audible Books .club. Okay, and that's free. But you don't have to do that, that's just extra if you'd like to do that. Okay, so the first 3 lessons we're going to be using conjunctions, and I'm going to be showing you a PowerPoint in a minute about conjunctions. So you're going to be writing sentences using them. One of the lessons is going to be looking at the broomstick lesson, and the other 2 about the sorting hat. Okay, the broomstick lesson, you're going to be imagining that you are taking part in the lesson and how you would feel and what you do, and you're going to be using conjunctions. Okay, so I'm going to show you a PowerPoint now. So this PowerPoint is about clauses and conjunctions. So clauses are groups of words that have an active verb and a subject, and they make sense. So an active verb is an action or doing word, and the subject is the doer of that verb, and it can be a noun or a pronoun. So let's have a look at some sentences. You could read them along with me and see if you can spot the active verb and the subject. Harry Potter looked around in amazement. So Harry is the subject and looked is the active verb. Well done, well done if you spotted that. They stepped through the archway. So they is the subject and stepped is the active verb. The sun shone brightly on a stack of cauldrons. So sun is the subject and shone is the active verb. A cobble street twisted out of sight. So street is the subject and twisted is the active verb. Well done, Year 3, if you manage to read those sentences and spot the active verb and the subject. Conjunctions are joining words, and they help add more detail by joining a new clause. They can explain when, why, or where something happened. So Harry looked around in amazement is the clause, the main clause. When, in this sentence, is the conjunction, and then we're going to add a new clause that adds more detail. So the words that we can use for when are before, after, when, while, as, until. And we're going to be using a few of these to see how the sentence can mean different things by adding different conjunctions. So we've got the conjunction when, and then a new clause, they stepped through the archway. So if we put it together, the whole sentence reads, Harry looked around in amazement when they stepped through the archway. Right, let's have a look at this sentence with some different conjunctions. Harry looked around in amazement before they stepped through the archway. Harry looked around in amazement until they stepped through the archway. So you can see how those words change the meaning of the sentence. So different conjunctions help us to add different types of information. They can ask the question when. The conjunctions can ask the question why, or they can ask where. So we're going to have a look at this clause, I am worn, and we're going to look how we can use a conjunction from when, why, and where in 3 different sentences. I am worn until I declare which house a student should join. I am worn because I can sense where you belong. I am worn where students are judged. So you can see the different types of sentences we've got there with the different conjunctions. So add more detail by adding an extra clause. So here we've got the main clause. Hermione found a new spell book. Ron dropped his wand. Harry hung on to the broomstick. Professor McGonagall appeared. And then we're going to, so these are the main clauses, and we're going to have a look at some subordinate clauses. He was surprised by a house elf. She was in the library. A cat had been sitting moments before. He caught the snitch. So these are the clauses that are giving us extra information, also known as the subordinate clause. Okay, and then we've got the conjunctions that join the clauses: until, when, where, and because. Right, what I'd like you to do now in a moment is stop the video and see if you can match up the main clause with the correct subordinate clause and choose the best conjunction to make the sentence make sense. Only use each conjunction once. Okay, so if you stop the video now. Well done if you've managed to match up the main clause with the subordinate clause and added a conjunction. We're going to have a look now at the answers. So Hermione found a new spell book when she was in the library. Ron dropped his wand because he was surprised by a house elf. Harry hung onto the broomstick until he caught the snitch. Professor McGonagall appeared where a cat had been sitting moments before. So well done, Year 3, if you managed to match up those sentences with the conjunctions. Some other combinations will also work, but some won't. So these are the best way that they all work together in the sentences. So does it matter which conjunction you choose? So we're going to have a look at the sentence before. Malfoy grinned, Gryffindor won the cup. And have a look how we can join this with different conjunctions to see if it makes a difference. So Malfoy grinned before Gryffindor won the cup. Malfoy grinned until Gryffindor won the cup. So these two conjunctions make a little bit of difference. Malfoy grinned before they actually won the cup, and he grinned until they won the cup. Okay, so slightly different meaning. Malfoy grinned after Gryffindor had won the cup. Maybe he did, but I don't think he would have done. Okay, so choosing the correct conjunction is important. So let's have a look at the order of clauses. When we add an extra clause, it adds information to the main clause. So Harry looked around in amazement. This is the main clause. When they stepped through the archway. When is the conjunction, and they stepped through the archway is the subordinate clause. So you can see here that Harry looked around in amazement is at the beginning of the sentence. The main clause is at the beginning of the sentence. But it can also go at the end of the sentence. It doesn't have to go at the beginning. So let's see, let's swap it around. And now it reads, when they stepped through the archway, Harry looked around in amazement. So now the main clause is at the end of the sentence. Okay, so we can do either. So let's have a look at the order of clauses and when to use a comma. So if you add a clause after a main clause, you don't need a comma. So let's have a look at the example below. So the main clause, Harry's broomstick snapped. And if we had the subordinate clause after, like this one, Harry's broomstick snapped as he crashed into the tree. So we've got the conjunction as and the subordinate clause, he crashed into the tree. So we don't need a comma. But if we put the subordinate clause first, then we usually separate it with a comma. So let's have a look at the example. As he crashed into the tree, Harry's broomstick snapped. So you can see the comma after the subordinate clause. And here we've got the conjunction right at the beginning of the sentence. So the comma helps us read this a little bit differently. So let's see, I'm going to read it to you. Harry's broomstick snapped as he crashed into the tree. As he crashed into the tree, Harry's broomstick snapped. So the comma tells us that the main clause is coming after the subordinate clause. So let's have a look at order of clauses and when to use a comma. Okay, so we're going to read these sentences and decide which clause needs a comma. Remember, it's when the subordinate clause is at the beginning of the sentence. Okay, so you could try and read them along with me. Harry's broomstick snapped where it struck the branch. The class cheered when they heard the lesson was cancelled. Because he was nervous, Ron's hands trembled. Before she sneaked out of the dormitory, Hermione listened carefully. Where it struck the branch, Harry's broomstick snapped. When they heard the lesson was cancelled, the class cheered. Ron's hands trembled because he was nervous. Hermione listened carefully before she sneaked out of the dormitory. Right, what I'd like you to do now is you can either tell an adult where you think the commas go, or you could write out the sentences and put in the commas in the correct place. Remember, they go after the subordinate clause when the subordinate clause comes at the beginning of the sentence. So if you would like to stop the video now and have a go. Well done, Year 3, you've had a go at that and you've managed to put the commas in the correct place. Let's have a look now at the answers. So you can see that the comma goes in sentence number 3, number 4, number 5 and number 6. So let's read these and we can see that the subordinate clause is at the beginning. Because he was nervous, Ron's hands trembled. Before she sneaked out of the dormitory, Hermione listened carefully. Where it struck the branch, Harry's broomstick snapped. When they heard the lesson was cancelled, the class cheered. So all these have the subordinate clause at the beginning, where the other ones have the main clause at the beginning. Okay, well done, Year 3. You've done really well with that work. I hope that has helped you with this, will help you with this week's lesson, and I'll see you soon for the next video on English for this week. Goodbye.